Phil, really appreciate your time. What do you make
Course.
of these statements from the UN Security Council? Just a bit of more talk and still no actual action?
Well, look, everyone realizes this is a bitterly divided UN Security Council, especially amongst the veto holding members, with the US, the UK, and France wanting to do much more, and China and Russia resisting action and frankly wanting to look the other way on what the Myanmar military is doing to its people. So I think the statement is really the minimum acceptable. The problem is it may also be the maximum of what the UN Security Council is prepared to do, and it's really not enough. I mean, our view is there needs to be a resolution that imposes a global arms embargo against Myanmar's security forces. That should be what the UN Security Council is talking about, and there needs to be action to impose sanctions. And that's precisely the thing that China and Russia, backed by India and Vietnam, took out of the resolution. They didn't want that threat in there that there might be further action, including sanctions.
Well, you're in Thailand. What is the sentiment there about what's happening across the border?
Well, I think there's a lot of concern in Thailand about what is happening. I think there's a lot of solidarity among Thai people for the Myanmar protesters, the people on the streets, because, there was a military coup here in 2014. People realize what military rule looks like. But the reality is also that there's concern about if people are cracked down on hard enough, will more people flee this way? Will we see a wave of refugees coming into Thailand?
Yeah, a concern for Thai people, and we're hearing from India the same as well. But just in terms of what's happening in Myanmar, over the last few weeks, we've been reporting on the story. We've had awful stories about nighttime raids, about protesters being killed. What is your team hearing about what's happening on the ground?
Well, quite clearly, the Myanmar military and police are using lethal force in an indiscriminate way. We have had reports of indiscriminate shooting into crowds with live ammunition. We have reports of military snipers being used, and there has been a number of people who have been shot in the head at these protests, indicating a degree of targeting. The situation is very bad. I mean, we are having a military that is prepared to use whatever force it feels necessary to try to impose fear and arrest people. We've also had just recently two cases where NLD, National League for Democracy, officials were taken at night in front of their families, and the next day they end up dead with signs of torture on their bodies.
So, Phil, what's the way forward here? I mean, most of the world is looking at this and wanting the violence to end. But in reality, what can we expect to still happen? Is it going to get worse before it gets better?
Well, I think that the people of Myanmar are not going to back down. We are seeing a mobilization across the country that dwarfs anything we've seen previously. Quite clearly, there is an ongoing civil disobedience movement that is trying to shut down the economy and pose real impact on the military's ability to control the situation. Now the international community needs to step up and back these protesters. We need to see real sanctions coming from the European Union and others targeting military companies, military top officials. The U.S. did something yesterday. They imposed sanctions on the two adult children of the commander-in-chief, Aung of the military junta, and their companies, but it's still not enough. I mean, the sanctions are coming out in drips and drabs, and we really need to have much more than that.
Much more than that, indeed. Phil Robertson, live to us there from Bangkok. As always, thank you for your time.